We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Executive Editor Phil Brasher, as well as this week by Senate Ag Committee Chairman Pat Roberts. Mr. Chairman, appreciate you taking a little bit of time to join us.
My pleasure. Thank you. My privilege. Always good to be on the Spencer Phillips show.
we appreciate.
I'm sorry, I got that out of the way.
That's totally fine. We appreciate you stopping by. So, want to start off talking about some things that we saw happen this week. Chiefly among them, the Grain Standards Act getting securing Senate passage. We're also looking at a number of things that, kind of some unfinished business on the committee, some livestock reporting language, et cetera. Wondering if you can give us a bit of a preview into the lame duck, when we might see, some of the current unfinished business provisions of the committee.
Well, right away, in very typical fashion for the Senate Agriculture Committee, of which both Senator Stabenow and I are very proud to passed unanimously. That's S-4054. It is now over waiting allegedly at the desk in the House. We hope it'll be on the suspension calendar, but we hope they move on it pretty quick. And that's, again, you've heard me say this I don't know how many times, certainty and predictability, and it reauthorizes it clear up through 2025.
And on the subject of things like livestock reporting, and any other plans for it to move, some other outstanding provisions in the lame duck here?
Well, it's interesting. I was talking with the Kansas Livestock Association yesterday and then the national group. And of course, we went through just a terribly difficult time with COVID and then that out at Holcomb, that fire and all the disruption with the markets. And then, of course, Senator Grassley for a long time has had a bill to say it's mandatory. You have to buy X or sell X on the market, on the spot market. I think things have calmed down a little bit, and in typical fashion with the livestock community, they're very rightfully so. They just don't really think they want to get into federal mandates, but I'm not sure that we're going to have a hearing on it, but we're going to have a final hearing in the committee, sort of a wrap-up thing. And for one, I want to thank all the members because it's been very special. Here's something that I have just hot off the wire. Oh, that's right. Pardon me. We're going to have to address this thing again. I'm talking about the Livestock Marketing Act by December 11. It's extended in the CR. So we'll have to see. I think we've seen some price recovery. I just want to make sure that we don't get into a mandatory situation when you have 70% of the producers out there under contract. And I don't think they could be very happy with some price improvement that we've seen. I was talking to Greg Dowd, the Assistant Secretary for Trade for Agriculture, and he said they're really selling an awful lot of beef to China right now. We hope it keeps up.
Yeah, Senator, I wanted to look ahead a little bit, thinking about and tapping some of your wisdom from having been through, was it eight farm bills now, I believe? Eight farm bills. Especially this last one. I don't recall the margin on the top of my head, but I bet
almost 90, almost 90.
Almost 90. Almost 90 votes. But I don't need to tell you, the Congress is not getting, the House is not getting more rural. Several states are going to lose rural districts after this, after redistricting, when we head into this next farm bill. And there's some states, growing states like Texas, where some of those ag districts are going to be more urban, even though there's still a large rural area. What lesson do the new chairs of the House and Senate Ag Committee need to draw from? What is it going to take to keep that urban rural posse, as you call it, together going forward?
You know how many times I've closed off by saying you have to ride again with the posse. Nothing much changes with the exception that it's very difficult to try to get somebody to listen to you, especially on the floor. Staff talks to staff, of course, but if you're sitting next to an urban member and you're trying, if you just sit down with them and say, could I visit with you just a little bit about agriculture program policy? Well, number one, you don't want to phrase it that way. You got about 17 seconds before there's a high glaze and everybody's busy on the floor, want to talk about something else. And so you talk about the farm bill, you talk about, you have to figure out what state, what do they grow? What do they contribute to agriculture? What do they contribute to America's food supply? And we always add in at the lowest price and the best quality in the history of the world, et cetera, et cetera. These speeches have been going on ever since, farm bills. But I think that the road is going to be perhaps a little more difficult. But we had over 1,000 different organizations, over 1,000, and it was throughout the entire food chain, knowing, of course, that the tough times that we've been going through, fourth, fifth year in a row, where prices are below the cost of production, and then all the problems with tariffs and then retaliation and all of this, and also, Mother Nature. Tough times. And so I think people understand the severity of the situation and the need to pass Farm Bill for certainty and predictability. Those are the two words that Deborah and I said over and over and over again. And you can forge a Farm Bill. You just have to be aware you got 60 votes unless we go to 51. I hope that's not the case for a lot of different reasons in the Senate. But when you have to have 60, then you can make a pretty good argument that you have to include all of the nutrition title and other things that a lot of farmers wonder why in the heck is that the Farm Bill? Well, basically, we're tied inexorably to that whole situation. That's what we're very proud of in the farm community. And I think those ties will continue to exist. And I have great faith in John Bozeman. I have great faith in Deborah. I don't know of anybody on the committee that has ever given us a real tough time, maybe other than Grassley. I shouldn't say that because he's tested positive. He's going to be fine. Although I'm in the running to be the curmudgeon of the Senate. I tried to do that for a long time. And I finished so far back in second place, I just gave it up. And but Chuck has, boy, when he decides he's for something or against something, he's a tough guy to move. But very reasonable guy, though, with agriculture, come from Iowa, and he's a great man. So I don't think it's going to change too much, but we will have the continued battles. There will be efforts to take on crop insurance and to allegedly reform it, which means cut it. And then you're going to have the payment limit controversy, which is always, that's just there. Each commodity will want to have something addressed that they don't have now, or they think they're going to have. And it's a balancing act. And I think, though, this last time, the obvious necessity of doing our responsibility and passing a farm bill really was paramount. And even though we had a little difficulty in the conference, we finally ended up together. And then the House passed a good bill too, as well. The thing is to get the farm bill removed from an ideological kind of approach, which can get you in trouble pretty quick. And you want to make sure that every commodity is treated fairly, but not to the extent that the other commodities feel that it's not, equal up to the task that they want. It's a tough job, but after 8 of them, you sort of get used to how, you know, how it works. I have a list here. I also have a phone that's ringing off the wall. And it's a spam call. Look at that.
We can all relate.
Wait a minute here. Hold on. I know how to turn it off. I don't know how to do much else. There. Sorry. You remember when we had the secretary, Tom Belsack, and several other poobahs before the committee. I don't think it was in ag. I think it was in finance or something.
That was finance, yes.
It was
I know.
finance,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I had a new ringtone. My kid said, "Let it go." Ringtone. And of course, I had it on. And it came just as I said. I said, "Miss Secretary, there's just one piece of advice that I would leave with you. With all due respect, sir." And it went boom. Let it go. Let it go. Sometimes you make more press doing silly things like that than you do otherwise. I think we'll be all right, Phil. I think we'll be okay. There'll be the same. It's the same stuff every time, and you just have to re-educate. I talked with the president the first week that he was in office. Kellyanne got me in, and he said, "How can I be of help to you?" And I said, "Save and improve crop insurance." And he said, "What's crop insurance?" And so we went through that. And he said, "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "Well, in your budget, sir, it sends a message." I didn't say, with all due respect, we don't pay much attention to president's budgets. I didn't think that was appropriate. But bam, he gets the operator and he says, "Mulvaney." And 7 seconds later, Mick Mulvaney's on the line. And then he forgot my name. Nobody wrote it down. And he says, "Farm guy here says save crop insurance." He says, "Don't cut crop insurance." And Mulvaney says, "We're not cutting it, sir. We're reforming it." And then I had to inform the president and Mick that that represented a lot of what we had in our Dodge City feedlots. So you can see what I said. And then I launched into the fact that if we went ahead with these so-called reforms, you're going to disenfranchise whole states, whole sections. And I looked the president right in the eye and said, "These are the people that not only danced with you, we took you home. And this is a large segment where you talk about all the workers and everything else." And that's true, but farm country really supported him big time. So he just said, "Mulvaney, don't cut crop insurance." And I can't remember what Mulvaney said. He said something. He said, "Roberts, I'll talk to you later," or something like that. And then I did talk to him about the White House, and he was laughing about it by that time. He said, "I should have known. I should have known." But you know, you just have to really re-educate the people that you have to, and get them on your side, and get a farm bill done, or you're you're really asking for trouble.
I want to ask you on your can't see it, but your new portrait that's behind you. You have your hand on on the back of all the farm bills that you're involved with. And there are actually a couple of other pieces of legislation that are very important. The crop insurance bill in 2000, you co-authored.
A lot of credit to Bob Carey from Nebraska.
Well, that really created the crop insurance program that we've got now. And then
I don't think there's any crop insurance. My predecessor, Keith Sebelius, when that happened, was very much opposed to it because we had pretty good crop insurance companies out in Cimarron, Kansas, not too far from Dodge City. And it was we had very fine state programs. So it went federal. Keith, I think he was one of the final votes on that. And then we went forward with it. It was obvious we really had to have something much more comprehensive. And then everybody wanted in, especially crops, everything else. And I think we did that once. I can't remember which farm bill it was. I'll have to look them up here. Wait a minute. Probably the, it wasn't in 2002. Had to be, might have been the Federal Agriculture Improvement and Reform Act of 96, i.e. Freedom Farm. And everybody, their dog wanted in, or crop, in the crop insurance program. And Bob Carey really helped out on that on the other side. And once we were able to sell it to cotton. I think we were okay. And it's proved a godsend to us. I don't know what we've done to Mother Nature, but you've seen what's happened. And without crop insurance, we would not have a vibrant agriculture.
Now, between that, the biotech labeling bill of 2016 that nullified all those state GMO bills that were creeping up. What do you think is 10 years from now? What do you think is going to wind up, of all the bills that you've been involved with, be the one that folks talk about or will have had the most lasting impact on American agriculture?
Phil, I was talking just a moment ago about an old boy well, not an old boy, he's 50 years old, big beard, the kind of guy that you want to say yes sir to, you want to fuss with him, but he's 50 and he says, Roberts, he says, I'm from the Southeast, I'm from the Balkans in Kansas. He said, I couldn't turn my farm over to my youngster if it hadn't been for you and Freedom to Farm. And we still have the Freedom to Farm. It's sort of surprising to me that it's lasted this long, because we even had some talk about set-asides here back during the first tranche of COVID. And that's so terribly counterproductive. Just doesn't make any sense. How on earth, why would you go to set-asides and set aside part of your operation, thereby giving that acreage and that that crop to a foreign country, to one of our competitors, because they always then would grow more than we'd set aside. And if you think there's a world price out there, sometimes I wonder. One of the things I think we really have to do is really focus on trade. It's going to be interesting to see who is secretary with President Biden, and then what that approach will be. And I hope to have my finger on the pie there a little bit. Down the road, I'm a little surprised that we've been able to keep Freedom to Farm. We had those things called Agriculture Market Assistance Programs, AMTA, and there's transmission in there too. Well, that worked for about 6 years, and the Democrats all of a sudden found out they could double them. We never thought that. I don't know why I didn't think that was going to happen. Quite frankly, this sounds a little political, but whatever ceiling that we have on payments to haven't fit the budget, and some years they went up, some years they went down. They tended to go up on the even numbered years, but that's their floor. And so all of a sudden, here came Kent Conrad, says, I got this figured out. Says, you're going to love this. And they wanted to go AMTA plus a half. Trent Lott and the more conservative Republicans didn't want anything to do with that. And the Aggies, we had an Aggie posse back then, and we blamed Conrad Burns for it, but he took it with Conrad. There was only one Conrad. So he told him, he said, if we don't do this, it's going to be worse. So they doubled them, and it was one of those years where it wasn't too bad a year. My Lord, the amount of money we're coming out. It's about like when we learned finally that those direct payments had to go. They just had to go. And I think that was, let me see which one that one is. I think that was 214.
Yeah, 2014.
And direct payments had to go. Well, stop and think a minute. That was $5 billion. So if you went 3 years with my excellent math expertise, that's $15 billion. Well, guess over 3 years how much money we have spent on direct payments to farmers as a result of retaliation because of tariffs. $70 billion in direct payments. Giving, of course, to the secretary the ability to make those choices, not the Congress. We wanted him to rock that baby. So here we have the Secretary of Agriculture making decisions on all these commodities, and that's a pretty tough job. So I don't know. It just seems like what things that come around, obviously go around and come in the back door. I hope we still have crop insurance, and I hope we still have a market-oriented farm policy. And I hope that we can really concentrate on ag research. If farmers do not have access to ag research and what's happening in the biofield, pretty tough to compete. Very different. Those are high hurdles, but we really tried to address that in the committee.
Mr. Chairman, want to wrap up with a question about that portrait again, and I was looking at that and thinking of, of course you're the only person with one of those portraits in both the House and Senate Ag Committee rooms, and I've seen you joke before that your portrait in the House Ag Committee room is you kind of reaching out and saying, begging, please pass the Farm Bill.
Right.
I wonder what's the message you're trying to send in this portrait.
I think that was due to my staff and my wife, who said, stand up straight and smile a little bit. That's what you get from, that's very important. I don't know. I just figured out that, is it the right hand or left hand? I guess the right hand. And it was the artist, I think, who, by the way, died. And then we have a new artist. But he felt it was important to have something in my hand. So there's a rolled up piece of paper, which is obviously an amendment to the Farm Bill or something. And probably a message from James and my staff for something to remember on the floor, so I won't just wander off into the wilderness. So that's that. I like it. I think it's serious, but it also, there's a little bit of a grin there. And I think if I didn't have that, why I wouldn't be true to whoever and whatever I am. By the way, it was Colin Peterson that restored my portrait back in the main room, because we had gone down the road for quite a while. And then you get over in the subcommittee room. After that, it's the closet. So he rescued me from the subcommittee room, and I said, well, wait a minute. How can you do that? Did you check with the architect? The architect is allegedly in charge of that. And quoting him, I don't know if I can quote him and have this be on, be public, but he expressed himself in words the way that he always does. He says, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a Farm Bill. And he says, I'd like to think that I contributed, which he did. A lot of rolling of eyes and smiling and laughing. But so he moves me back, and then there's a space there. And I said, what's the space for? He said, well, that's for me, of course. And he said, I don't know about the architect, but I'm chairman of this committee. To hell with the architect. A direct quote. So you can do that. Call him first if you can find him.
Fair enough. Well, obviously, a lot of different stories we could probably tell of old times in farm policy, or fairly recent times in farm policy. But out of respect for you and your time and your schedule and your staff's sanity, I think we're going to call it good on this conversation for now.
Well, Spencer, you just, heck, I could sit here all morning and talk stories with you and Phil, and especially Phil has been around not as long as I've been, but pretty much. And my staff will tell you that that's all I do anymore is tell stories, some of which are interesting. But thank you for the time. Thank you for the privilege. Agri-Pulse, of course, is the leading agriculture publication on the crest of the wave. I'll probably make other people mad saying that, but it's true. And you're doing a great job, not only in terms of, in behalf of the producer or production agriculture, which we all have an obligation to be a champion, but you do as well. And then also, if I were to really try to impress upon an urban member that they really need to keep up with this, or else those, food doesn't come from grocery stores, as we found out with COVID. And but if they'd read Agri-Pulse, that's all they'd have to do.
Well, we appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher and for Chairman Pat Roberts, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.